Commander Jack Harlow gripped the control panel as the ship shuddered violently around him. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, bathing the crew in pulses of red. "Status report," he barked, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Main engine failure, sir. Navigation systems offline. We're going down," Lieutenant Rivera replied, fingers flying across her console. Jack had survived enough crashes to know this was bad. The diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council, humanity's chance to finally gain recognition, was about to end in flames on an uncharted planet. "All hands brace for impact," he ordered through the ship-wide comm. "Secure crash positions." The vessel broke through the atmosphere of Nexus 9, a dense jungle planet that wasn't supposed to be on their route. Something had pulled them here. Whether malfunction or sabotage, Jack couldn't tell. The impact came hard. Metal screamed against Earth as the ship carved a deep trench through the alien forest. Jack's head slammed against his restraints and darkness swallowed him. He woke to smoke and groans. Blood trickled down his temple as he unbuckled himself and stood on shaky legs. "Sound off," he called out. "Who's alive?" 5 crew members responded. Out of 12. Jack swallowed the familiar taste of loss and focused on the survivors. "Rivera, check the comms. Peters, secure the perimeter. Chen, medical supplies. We need to find the others." Outside, Nexus 9 greeted them with humid air and strange twisted vegetation. The trees stretched impossibly high, their purple leaves blocking most of the sunlight. The ground felt spongy beneath their boots. "Sir, long-range comms are fried," Rivera reported. "Emergency beacon is active, but who knows if anyone will hear it out here." Jack nodded grimly. "We search for survivors first. Stay together. Stay alert." They found 2 more crew members alive but injured in the wreckage. The others hadn't made it. Jack marked their locations for proper burial later. No one got left behind, even in death. As they ventured deeper into the jungle searching for the separated escape pod, Jack felt eyes watching them. The hairs on his neck stood up, a survival instinct that had saved him many times. "Hold," he whispered, raising his fist. The team froze. The rustling came from all sides. Something big moved through the undergrowth. "Weapons ready," Jack ordered quietly. The creature that emerged made their military-grade weapons seem like toys, nearly 3 meters tall, with iridescent scales and 4 powerful arms, each ending in curved claws. Its elongated head featured multiple eyes and a jaw that could easily crush a human skull. "Krazak," Chen whispered in horror. "The apex predators. They've wiped out entire colonies." The massive creature, clearly the alpha of its kind, stepped forward, its mouth opening to reveal rows of serrated teeth. Behind it, more shapes moved in the shadows. Jack knew running was pointless. Fighting might be too, but surrender wasn't in his nature. He stepped forward, placing himself between the creature and his crew. He dropped his weapon and stood tall, eyes locked with the predator's multiple glowing orbs. "If you want them, you go through me first," he said firmly. The Krazak Alpha, Vexthor, as Jack would later learn, tilted its head. It studied Jack with an intelligence that seemed to pierce through him. Then, to everyone's shock, the massive creature lowered its body in what could only be described as a bow. The other Krazak followed suit, creating a circle of bowing predators around the humans. Before Jack could process this impossible reaction, the sky roared with the sound of an approaching ship. Rescue had arrived faster than expected, but as the ship broke through the canopy, Jack saw unfamiliar markings on its hull. Not Earth forces. The ship's weapon systems were hot and locked onto their position. "That's not rescue," Rivera said, her voice tight with fear. "That's a Galactic Council warship." The Krazak scattered into the jungle as the ship's speakers crackled to life. "Attention, humans. By order of the Galactic Council, all members of your species are hereby declared enemies of galactic peace. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Jack grabbed Rivera's arm and pulled her into the dense underbrush as energy blasts scorched the ground where they had stood seconds before. "Move," he ordered the others. "Into the jungle now." The Council warship hovered above the crash site, its weapon systems targeting any movement. Jack led his team deeper into the alien forest. the strange purple foliage providing cover from orbital scanners. "Why are they attacking us?" Peters gasped, clutching his side where a piece of shrapnel had caught him during their escape. "We're on a diplomatic mission." "Questions later," Jack replied. "Survival first." They ran until their lungs burned, the sounds of destruction fading behind them. When they finally stopped to catch their breath, Rivera activated her portable scanner. "Sir, there's another ship approaching. It's one of ours, the USS Horizon." Hope flickered across the faces of the surviving crew. Jack felt it too, but remained cautious. "They're flying into a trap." The ground shook as explosions lit up the sky. Through gaps in the canopy, they watched their rescue ship engage the Council warship in battle. "We need to warn them," Chen said, desperation in her voice. Jack nodded. "Rivera, boost our emergency beacon. Use the crash ship's reactor signature to cut through the interference." As Rivera worked, a familiar rustling surrounded them. The Krazak had returned, led by the massive Alpha that had bowed to Jack. Instead of attacking, the creatures formed a protective circle around the humans. "They're guarding us," Peters whispered in disbelief. The Alpha approached Jack, its multiple eyes fixed on him with unsettling intelligence. It made a series of clicking sounds, then pointed toward a distant mountain. "I think it wants us to follow," Jack said. A deafening explosion rocked the forest. Through the trees, they saw the USS Horizon spiraling toward the surface, trailing smoke and debris. "No choice now," Jack decided. "We follow the Krazak." The creatures led them through hidden paths in the jungle, moving with surprising speed. Hours later, they reached a small clearing where a shuttle had crashed years ago, now overgrown with vegetation. "Council markings," Rivera noted, examining the wreckage. "But it's ancient." Inside, they found a functional emergency kit with basic supplies and a data pad. Jack activated it and the screen flickered to life, displaying information in the common galactic language. "It's a research log," Jack said, scanning the contents, "about something called Deathworlders." The data showed images of various species, including humans, with detailed biological scans. Notes described impossible evolutionary traits and dangerous potential. "The last entry," Jack read aloud, says, "Confirmation. Humans are Deathworlders. Council must be warned before first contact proceeds." "What does that mean?" Chen asked. "It means," came a voice from behind them, "that your existence threatens everything the Council has built." They spun around to see a Council officer standing at the entrance of the crashed shuttle, weapon raised. Behind him, more soldiers emerged from the jungle. "The Krazak," Rivera whispered. "They're gone." "Those beasts recognize what you are," the officer said, his alien features twisted with disgust. "A myth come to life. Deathworlders were supposed to be legends, stories to frighten children. Yet here you stand." Jack stepped forward. "We came in peace." "Peace?" The officer laughed. "Your kind evolved on a planet that should have killed you. High gravity, deadly radiation, extreme temperatures, toxic elements. Instead of dying, you thrived. Do you know what the ancient texts call your type? Planet killers, world enders." A low growl rumbled through the clearing. The Krazak hadn't abandoned them. They had surrounded the Council forces. The officer's eyes widened in fear. "They serve you already, just as the legends warned." Before anyone could move, the USS Horizon's shuttle burst through the canopy above, guns blazing. Council soldiers scattered as the human craft landed in the clearing. "Commander Harlow," a voice called from the shuttle's speakers. "Earth is under attack. We need to go now." The shuttle rocked violently as it broke atmosphere. Council fighters in hot pursuit. Jack gripped his seat, knuckles white, as Captain Liam Foster navigated through the barrage of enemy fire. "Earth status," Jack demanded, his voice tight with worry. Foster's face hardened. "Bad." Council ships appeared without warning. They hit major cities first. New York, Beijing, London, all gone. The words hit Jack like physical blows. Billions dead. His family had been in Chicago. Were they still alive? Why? Rivera asked, her voice breaking. What did we do to deserve this? We existed, Jack said, remembering the officer's words. That was enough. The shuttle's warning systems blared as a missile locked onto them. Foster cursed and sent the craft into a steep dive. Hang on! The missile exploded meters above them, rocking the shuttle. Alarms screamed as systems failed. We're losing power, Foster shouted over the noise. I need somewhere to land, now. Jack pulled up the navigation system. There, Outpost Delta 7. It's a research station in the Kuiper Belt. If anyone knows about these Deathworlder claims, it's Dr. Alan Frost. Foster nodded grimly and changed course. The shuttle limped toward the distant outpost, trailing debris and venting oxygen. They landed hard on Delta 7's small docking bay. Emergency systems sealed the breach as they stumbled out, gasping for breath in the station's thin air. Who's there? A thin man with wild gray hair appeared, clutching an outdated pulse rifle. His eyes widened when he saw their uniforms. Earth military, you're alive? Dr. Frost? Jack stepped forward. Commander Jack Harlow, we need your help. Frost lowered his weapon. Come, quickly. Council patrols sweep this sector hourly. He led them through narrow corridors lined with ancient texts and artifacts. Screens displayed data in dozens of languages. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and old coffee. I've been monitoring the attacks, Frost said, bringing up footage of Earth's burning cities. This isn't a war, it's extermination. Jack fought to keep his composure as images of his home world flashed before him. Why do they call us Deathworlders? What does it mean? Frost's eyes lit up with academic excitement despite the grim situation. That's why I'm out here. I've spent decades studying the legends. He pulled up ancient texts on his main screen. Deathworlders aren't myths. They're evolutionary marvels from planets that should be uninhabitable. He showed them comparative biology charts. Humans evolved on a high-gravity, radiation-soaked planet with extreme temperature variations and predators that should have wiped you out. Instead, you adapted. Your bones are denser than most species. Your endurance is unmatched. Your ability to survive trauma would be considered supernatural by council standards. The Krazak, Jack said, remembering the bow. They recognize something in me. Yes, Frost exclaimed. The ancient texts speak of an alliance between Deathworlders and the Krazak. Together they once saved the galaxy from something called the Void Scourge. Rivera leaned forward. So why fear us now? So why? Power, Frost said simply. The Council maintains control through technological superiority. But biology like yours, they can't match it, can't control it. He pulled up more files. Look at this footage from First Contact 50 years ago. The screen showed humans performing feats of strength and endurance that seemed impossible. Lifting collapsed structures, surviving in vacuum for minutes, continuing to fight despite severe injuries. The Council has been systematically erasing this evidence, Frost explained. They fear what humans might become if they realize their potential. A proximity alarm blared. Frost rushed to the security feed. Council ships, he said, fear evident in his voice. A full battle group. Jack moved to the weapons locker. We need to get this information to the Resistance. Earth needs to know why they're really fighting. There's more, Frost said urgently. The Council has a super weapon, they call it the Purifier. It's designed to sterilize Earth's surface. The station shook as the first bombs hit. Dust fell from the ceiling. How do we stop it? Jack demanded. You don't, said Peters, suddenly pointing a Council weapon at Jack's head. The Purifier is already on its way. Jack stared at Peters, betrayal burning in his chest. The man he'd fought beside for years now aimed a weapon at his head. You, Jack said, his voice low and dangerous. How long? Peters smiled, but it wasn't his smile anymore. Something alien lurked behind his eyes. Since before we met. I'm what they call a hybrid. Human DNA spliced with Council genetics. The perfect spy. Another explosion rocked the station. Warning lights flashed as oxygen levels began to drop. The Council is afraid, Peters continued. They've been watching humans break every limitation they thought possible. They saw what happened on Nexus 9. The Krazak recognized you, Jack. Do you know how impossible that is? Jack tensed, calculating the distance between them. Peters noticed and tightened his grip on the weapon. Don't try it. Your Deathworlder reflexes are good, but not that good. Dr. Frost slowly reached for something under his desk. The Council has always feared what they can't control. Shut up, old man, Peters snapped. Jack caught Rivera's eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. She understood immediately. The purifier will reach Earth in 48 hours, Peters said. Nothing can stop it now. The Council wants you alive, Jack. They want to study why the Krazak responded to you. The rest of you are expendable. You're wrong about one thing, Jack said calmly. What's that? Deathworlder reflexes. Rivera threw herself at the light controls as Frost slammed his hand on a hidden button. The station plunged into darkness. Jack moved instantly, his body remembering years of combat training. He heard Peters fire twice, felt the heat of energy blasts passing centimeters from his face. Then his hand found Peters' throat. He squeezed, feeling inhuman strength in the hybrid's muscles as they struggled. You're not the only one with enhancements, Peters hissed. The emergency lights flickered on. Peters' face had changed, his skin taking on a grayish hue, eyes fully black. Jack slammed him against the wall, but Peters kicked him back with impossible strength. Foster tackled Peters from the side. The hybrid's weapon discharged, hitting the ceiling. Debris rained down as Jack recovered and rejoined the fight. Together they subdued Peters, who laughed despite the blood trickling from his mouth. You're too late, he said. The Council knows everything. Your families, your defenses, your weaknesses. Jack secured Peters with restraints as the station continued to shake under bombardment. We need to go, Frost said urgently. I have a ship hidden in the lower bay. It's old, but it'll get us to the Resistance. What Resistance? Rivera asked. Humans aren't alone in hating the Council, Frost explained, gathering data drives. Other species have been fighting back for years. They've established a base in the Ceres asteroid belt. They dragged Peters with them through the crumbling station. Frost's ship was small and outdated, but its engines hummed with power as they boarded. What about the purifier? Foster asked as they strapped in. The Resistance has been tracking it, Frost said, initiating launch sequence. But they don't have the firepower to stop it. Jack thought of the Krazak, how they had protected his team. I might know who does. The ship blasted away from the station just as Council forces breached the main doors. They navigated through the debris field, taking heavy fire. We need to return to Nexus 9, Jack said firmly. That's suicide, Foster argued. The Council will be hunting the Krazak now. They'll want to eliminate any potential allies. Exactly, Jack replied, which means we need to get there first. Peters laughed from his restraints. You don't understand what you're facing. The Council has deployed their elite hunters. The Krazak are already being exterminated. Jack grabbed Peters by his collar. Then we better hurry. The ship shuddered as a Council cruiser locked a tractor beam on them. Metal groaned as the hull began to buckle. We're caught, Frost shouted, frantically working the controls. Jack looked out the viewport at the massive Council ship pulling them in. Then he noticed something else. Movement in the darkness of space. Dozens of small, fast-moving objects approaching the Council cruiser. What is that? Rivera asked, pressing against the glass. The Council ship's alarms suddenly blared. The tractor beam released as the cruiser turned its weapons toward the new threat. Krazak ships, Jack said, a smile spreading across his face. They followed us. The Krazak ships swarmed the Council cruiser like angry insects, their smaller vessels weaving between defensive fire with impossible precision. Jack watched in awe as they targeted the cruiser's weapon systems with surgical strikes. Now's our chance, he ordered. Full power to engines. Frost pushed the old ship to its limits. The engines whined in protest as they broke free from the battle zone. Behind them, the Council cruiser erupted in flames as Krazak boarding parties breached its hull. They're actually helping us, Rivera said, disbelief in her voice. Jack nodded. They remember the old alliance. Now we need to make it official. They set course for Nexus 9, pushing the aging ship beyond safety parameters. Peters remained silent in his restraints, his alien eyes watching Jack with a mixture of hatred and fear. When they reached the jungle planet, the signs of battle were everywhere. Burned forests, crashed ships, and the bodies of council soldiers littered the landscape. The Krazak had fought back hard. There, Jack pointed to a clearing near their original crash site. Land there. As they disembarked, a group of Krazak emerged from the trees. At their head stood the massive alpha, Vexthor. His scales were scorched in places, evidence of recent fighting. Jack stepped forward alone, unarmed. The alpha approached him, towering over the human. For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Vexthor extended one clawed hand and made a series of clicking sounds. "He wants to show you something," Frost translated, consulting his datapad. "I've been studying their language patterns." Jack nodded and followed the Krazak deeper into the jungle. The others trailed behind, weapons ready but not raised. Peters was dragged along, his eyes darting nervously at the predators surrounding them. They reached a massive cave entrance hidden behind a waterfall. Inside, hundreds of Krazak gathered around injured members of their species. Young ones huddled in protected corners. "They're breeding grounds," Frost whispered. "They've never shown this to outsiders." Vexthor led them to a wall covered in ancient carvings. The images showed Krazak fighting alongside bipedal figures against a darkness that consumed stars. "The Void Scourge," Frost translated as Vexthor spoke. "They remember humans as sky warriors who helped defeat an ancient enemy." Jack studied the carvings, feeling the weight of history. "Ask him if they'll help us again. Earth is about to be destroyed." Frost spoke in halting clicks and growls. Vexthor listened, then responded with a long series of sounds. "He says the Krazak war packs are already gathering," Frost translated. "They've been waiting for the Sky Warriors to return." Peters laughed bitterly from where he was held. "You think these animals can stop the Purifier? It's the most powerful weapon ever created." Vexthor turned to Peters, his multiple eyes narrowing. He approached the hybrid, sniffing the air around him. Then he made a disgusted sound and turned away. "He can smell the council genetics in you," Frost said. "He says you're tainted." Jack faced his former friend. "Where is the Purifier now?" Peters smiled coldly. "Approaching Earth's orbit. You're too late." A younger Krazak rushed into the cave, making urgent sounds. Vexthor roared in response, and the entire cave erupted in activity. "What's happening?" Jack demanded. "Council forces," Frost translated frantically. "They've found the breeding grounds. They're deploying the prototype Purifier here as a test." Jack felt cold determination replace his fear. "Then we stop it here. We show them what happens when they threaten a Deathworlder and his allies." Vexthor placed a massive clawed hand on Jack's shoulder and made a solemn sound. "He says the Sky Warriors and the Krazak will fight as one again," Frost translated. "He calls you brother." Outside, the sky turned red as council ships entered the atmosphere. The ground shook as the first bombs fell. Jack looked at the gathered Krazak warriors, then at his human companions. "Today we show the council why Deathworlders became legends." Vexthor raised his head and let out a deafening battle cry. Hundreds of Krazak voices joined in, the sound shaking dust from the cave ceiling. Jack checked his weapon and nodded to his team. "Let's go save 2 worlds.